3 years into our relationship, Ethan Yang's first love returned from overseas, and he forgot me entirely. He let his first love ruin my gown, take my trophy, and steal the role that was rightfully mine. The Sullivan family had fallen into decline and needed money, so I went to him for help. Egged on by his first love, he sneered, "Megan Sullivan, why not spend a night with Victor Foster? You might just get the money. After all, there's no shortage of women around me now." He had just regained his memory the day I walked into Victor Foster's villa. Following his advice, my heart utterly shattered. That night, Ethan Yang went mad, pounding on the door outside all night. Victor Foster asked, "Do you want to go out and see him?" "No," I replied. He smirked, his voice hoarse. "Then I'll work harder." Chapter 1. In the aisle, I came across my fiancé, Ethan Yang, accompanying Claire Sinclair to the award ceremony. Claire Sinclair is my fiancé's first love, who has recently returned to the country. Ethan Yang and I had been in love for 3 years. On the eve of our wedding, during his visit to the film set, the stunt wire snapped during my performance. While rescuing me, he struck his head on the ground. When he woke up, he had lost his memory. He forgot me. He forgot that he had loved me. His memories remained anchored in the year when his heart belonged most completely to Claire Sinclair. He thought our relationship was merely a business alliance between families, viewing me as nothing but an obstacle in his pursuit of true love. This man, who just a month ago was deeply in love with me and would have given his life for me Now, for his true love, every time he looks at me, his gaze is as cold and detached as if I were a stranger he has nothing to do with. His gaze, cold and tinged with annoyance, fixed on me. A sharp pain pierced through my heart, making me lower my gaze to avoid his eyes. His phone rang, and he stepped away to answer it. Claire Sinclair moved closer and stepped on my evening gown. Her expression was one of barely concealed triumph as she looked at me, lowering her voice. "Megan Sullivan, what is your 3 years with him matter? In his memories now. I'm his true love. The doctors said he may never regain his memory. Even if he does, I'll use this time to claim his heart. When that day comes, he won't want you anymore." I lifted my foot and kicked her behind the knee, forcing her to kneel. I gazed down at her with icy contempt. "When you say this, know your place. You're merely a usurper. For the ruined gown, expect my bill, a limited edition haute couture piece worth $200,000. Claire Sinclair knelt on the ground, her face transforming into a tearful mask of wounded resolve as she said, "Miss Sullivan, please don't be angry. I never meant to step on your gown. I'll pay the $200,000 however I must, but I won't leave Ethan. I love him desperately." Just as she finished speaking, Ethan Yang noticed the commotion here. He strode over and tenderly lifted her from the ground. His gaze was a biting winter gale, sharp and merciless. He hurled a platinum card at my face. "Don't think a little money entitles you to act entitled. Swipe your damn card. It's just $200,000. Stay away from Claire, and forget about me ever marrying you. That ship has sailed." He turned around and left, holding her in his arms. My cheeks stung as if slashed by a blade. Through blurred vision, I watched his rigid, ice-cold figure retreat. Weary eyelids fell as I forced back the glistening tears. "Ethan Yang, can you please remember me soon? I don't know how much longer I can hold on. Although I know you didn't mean to hurt me, you've simply forgotten everything we've been through together. But every time you hurt me for her, it hurts me too, and I want to give up on you." Chapter 2. That night, the trophy that should have rightfully been mine was presented to Claire Sinclair. I had already received news that I was highly likely to win the Best Actress award. In terms of viewership and reputation, my drama significantly outshone all others released during the same period. However, it was snatched away by Claire Sinclair, who made a mid-campaign return. She hadn't even starred in a well-known TV series domestically. The award she won was for a low-budget, poorly received production. Utterly ridiculous. Who else but Ethan Yang could have pulled this off? She had already changed out of the dusty gown into a sparkling blue sequined mermaid dress, standing radiantly on stage as she thanked Ethan Yang. In the crowd, their eyes met and they smiled at each other, like two lovers deeply immersed in affection. Others turned their gaze towards me, aware that Ethan Yang was my fiancé. And I was still in that tattered red gown, looking disheveled and miserable. I straightened my back and clenched my fists. I remembered a month ago after making love. He held me in his arms and told me he had promised to book the entire Golden Globe venue to invite everyone to celebrate when I won the Best Actress award. He even said he would propose to me at the award ceremony so that everyone would know I was his. The oppressive atmosphere made it unbearable to stay any longer, and I rose to leave the venue. Once outside, I was swarmed by reporters hurling one sharp question after another. Miss Sullivan, you were the top favorite for Best Actress tonight, yet the award didn't go to you. What are your thoughts? What's going on between you and Mr. Yang? Weren't there rumors of an upcoming wedding recently? Why is he now publicly accompanying another woman? Have you two broken up? I was overwhelmed by their relentless barrage of questions, nearly stumbling backward when strong hands steadied me at the waist. I looked up to meet a cold and aloof face accentuated by a white three-piece suit, rendering him utterly untouchable. It was Victor Foster, the reclusive tycoon rumored to seldom appear in public, present at this modest award ceremony. "Step aside," he ordered. The media, intimidated by his presence, immediately retreated several paces at his emotionless words. At that moment, Ethan Yang emerged with Claire Sinclair as well. The media swarmed towards them again like bees drawn to honey. A reporter asked, "Rumors suggested you and Miss Sullivan were nearing marriage. Is Miss Sinclair your new lover? Is she the other woman?" Claire Sinclair's smile stiffened as she gazed at Ethan Yang with apprehension. He held her protectively in his arms, and when about to answer, his gaze lifted to meet mine before lingering on my waist. With a cruel, icy smile, he stated, "Miss Sullivan means nothing to me. As for Claire, she's my first and only love. I've never stopped loving her." If Victor Foster hadn't been holding me, I would have collapsed. Since waking up from his injury, this wasn't the first time he'd said such things to me. I had thought that after hearing them a few times, I would get used to it. But when he said it before everyone's eyes like this, it felt as if all my strength had been completely drained. I was so exhausted from clinging to this love, never knowing when, or if, it would awaken. Yet, whenever I considered giving up, I recalled the day the wire snapped and he ran toward me as if his life depended on it. In the moment before I lost consciousness, he said, "As long as you're okay," his head covered in blood. What if he regains his memory, and I'm not by his side? What would become of him? Clinging to Victor Foster's arm like a lifeline, I pleaded, "Could you get me out of here?" He responded by opening the car door and gesturing for me to enter. Chapter 3. In the days that followed, unlike my initial persistence where I'd endure Ethan Yang's annoyances to appear before him and try to salvage our memories, I threw myself into filming and taking on projects. My agent informed me that several roles meant for me had been taken and assigned to Claire Sinclair, the dark horse lead actress who emerged that night. I knew all of this was Ethan Yang's doing. To prove his loyalty to Claire Sinclair, he'd severed ties with me. At that moment, my father called to inform me that the Sullivan family's capital chain had collapsed, and without immediate cash infusion to survive this period, we'd face bankruptcy. I told him not to worry, and immediately transferred all the money I had earned over the years to them. We were still short of $3 million. My father told me to seek out Ethan Yang, pointing out that given our long-standing relationship and how we had helped the Yang family during their crisis years ago, there was no reason for him not to assist us now. I asked Ethan Yang's brothers, and even now, they still acknowledge me as their sister-in-law. They told me they'd be at Goldcrest tonight. When I arrived at Goldcrest, I saw a banner reading, "Happy Birthday, Claire," and finally understood it was Claire Sinclair's birthday banquet tonight. He was sitting on the private room sofa, with Claire in his arms, a cigarette in his left hand. When our gazes met through the haze, smoke obscured his eyes. As the haze dissipated, I saw his knitted brows. His eyes made it blatantly clear that he had not the slightest desire to see me. One thing after another had numbed even my pain. I stepped up to him and said, I need to speak with you privately. He smirked disdainfully. You want to talk? And I'm supposed to drop everything? Speak now or never. I don't have time to entertain you. I clenched my fists. Growing up in a wealthy family, I had never experienced such humiliation. To have to beg for money in front of so many people, especially my romantic rival, felt like a stinging slap across the face. Utterly humiliating. But I had no way out. I hoarsely said, "Can you lend me $3 million?" He took a casual drag of his cigarette, his smile growing, increasingly mocking. "Miss Sullivan, weren't you the one humiliating me with money the other day? Now you come to me for a loan." Then he casually glanced down at Claire Sinclair in his arms and asked, "Claire, should we lend it? Or make her kneel to apologize?" "Ethan, Miss Sullivan has plenty of wealthy connections. $3 million is pocket change. Since she's close with Victor Foster, if you refuse, she can easily get it elsewhere." His eyes darkened as he pondered, expression growing increasingly sinister, a cruel smile twisting his lips. "Megan Sullivan, why don't you spend a night with Victor Foster? You might get the money that way. After all, I'm not short of company these days." It turned out that being heartbroken to the extreme felt like having my heart put through a meat grinder, completely shredded into pieces. Each breath tugged at the pain in my chest. I felt tears welling up, blurring his face before me. People around him cautioned him not to speak so harshly, in case he regretted it if he ever regained his memory. He replied with arrogant certainty, "I've never regretted anything. She's not my type." When he uttered those words, the memory that surfaced was from 3 years prior, him booking skyscrapers citywide for his lavish public confession. With tender eyes and a smile, he'd said, "Megan, you're extraordinary. I adore you. Let's try being together." It was a stark contrast to his current callous indifference. A profound sense of grief permeated through my entire being. This time, my heart finally died completely. I raised my hand and hurled the wine in my glass at him, the red liquid leaving a vivid contrast against his pristine white shirt. Claire Sinclair screamed in shock and began wiping his face with a tissue. He was about to get angry, but when he met my cool, calm, tear-filled eyes, he froze. I wiped the tears from my cheeks and said to him with newfound resolve, "This is the last time I'll seek you out. I'll give proper consideration to your advice." Straightening my back, I left the private room. Chapter 4. I had just come downstairs when I encountered 3 heavily intoxicated men leering at me with obscene grins plastered across their faces. One of them grabbed my arm and leaned in closer, studying my face. "You look just like that big star. Megan Sullivan? You smell so damn good." I instantly slapped him across the face and snarled venomously, "Fuck off." The other 2, seeing their companion get struck, spat, "Filthy bitch. Can't take a fucking hint." The 3 of them closed in on me, demanding that I serve them properly. I knew some basic self-defense and managed to hold my own against them for a few moves. But against 3, my fists were no match, and soon I was pinned against the bar, one gripping my foot, another clutching my wrist, while the third stood leering at me. "Let's see how the fuck you act tough now," he sneered. Everyone around was watching the spectacle. Everyone here was wealthy or influential, and none of them wanted to stir up trouble. I looked up and saw Ethan Young standing on the second floor, looking down at my disheveled state. "Help me." As he was about to speak, Claire interjected. "Miss Sullivan is, after all, the daughter of the influential Sullivan family in Brighton and a well-known celebrity. She would have bodyguards whenever she goes out. She must have anticipated your sympathy." Implicit in her words was that I was resorting to a calculated self-sacrifice ploy. He hesitated, unmoving as if weighing her words. I rushed out today, without bringing anyone with me. Despair washed over me as I closed my eyes. Those vile hands had already ripped through the shoulder of my coat and were pawing at me. Who the hell dares to cause trouble?
Fuck.
Which bastard kicked me? A coat was draped over me, and opening my eyes, I saw Victor Foster. For the first time, a palpable fury surfaced on his composed and handsome face, his eyes as dark and turbulent as the ocean, churning with icy intensity. The 3 men who had restrained me now lay on the ground like dead dogs, each felled by a single kick. He calmly uttered a few words, dogs blocking the way. Then he turned back to me and said softly, "Cover yourself properly." He approached the man who had torn at my clothes and looked down with lowered eyes. "Which hand touched her?" "You know my family is the Landon family in Brighton. If you dare lay a finger on me—"
Ah.
Before he could finish, Victor Foster lost his patience and stomped on the back of the man's left hand, grinding it hard under his heel, making him scream in agony. "Remember, if you seek vengeance, come to Victor Foster." Throughout the process, Victor Foster's expression remained unchanged, as if he were simply handling routine matters. The other two dragged their companion away in a panic. He came back to me and asked, "Can you walk by yourself?" "I can," I answered. But the moment I stepped down from the bar and touched the ground, a stabbing pain shot through my ankle, making me stagger. He scooped me up in his arms and said, "Stop forcing yourself to act tough." Chapter 5. Sitting in Victor's Porsche for the second time, he helped me into the back seat, then crouched down to examine my foot. "I'll press here. Tell me if you feel any pain." I nodded. His cool, long fingers pressed against my ankle. Though the contact felt cold, my skin burned where he touched. Instinctively, I jerked my foot back, but he caught it firmly. When he lifted his gaze to meet mine, our breaths mingled in the confined space. "Does it hurt?" The car's interior was already cramped. When he looked up, our breaths mingled. His face was impossibly handsome. My foot trapped in his grip burned hotter.
"No."
"Then don't move. I'll be gentle." I noticed the driver's face in the rearview mirror, looking awkward and thoroughly mortified. This damn conversation was making my heart race and my face burn. "It should just be a sprain, it's not a big deal." When I was struggling with them earlier while wearing high heels, my left foot twisted as I landed. He squeezed my foot to confirm there was no serious injury before releasing it and returning to his seat. "It's a sprain, but don't downplay it. Apply a hot compress and some ointment later." "I'm troubling Mr. Foster again today. Is Sullivan Corp in trouble?" He didn't seem like someone to meddle in others' affairs. I looked at him in surprise. He was leaning back in his seat, eyes closed, casually asking, "There are some issues. How much do you need?" $3 million. "I can give it to you." "Mr. Foster, you're really too kind." He opened his eyes and looked at me, a smile playing on his lips as though I'd said something amusing. "I never help for free." "Not for free? Could he be interested in me?" He was good-looking and had helped me several times. I noticed the faint outline of his abs through his white shirt when he removed his coat. I wouldn't be losing out, but I had no desire to. "Help me film a movie. The $3 million will be your compensation, and I can pay you the full amount in advance." I nearly choked, realizing I had overthought it. "You look like you were thinking about something else," I teased with feigned nonchalance. I thought Mr. Foster had taken a liking to me, helping me out so many times. To my surprise, he didn't laugh off my jest but met my gaze with unflinching seriousness. "You guessed right. I'm not the warm-hearted type. I simply dislike coercing people or dealing with those whose motives aren't pure. I'll wait until you come to me willingly. As for the film, don't overthink it. The role was always intended for you. This is merely an early advance on your compensation." Chapter 6. The next day, he transferred the money. After the Sullivan family successfully weathered the crisis, I signed a contract with the production team and awaited the official commencement of filming. During this time, since I had trouble walking, he only added me on WhatsApp and exchanged a few messages with me daily. Even during his business trips, he never missed a day. Gradually, I grew accustomed to messaging him daily. About half a month later, on the day I was scheduled to join the film set, I encountered Claire Sinclair. It wasn't the same project. We just coincidentally happened to be location scouting in the same area. The two production teams had nothing to do with each other. If there had to be a connection, it was that the female lead role in Chasing Dreams she was currently filming had originally been mine, but they replaced me with Claire Sinclair right before shooting commenced. During the lunch break, she came over to greet me. "Miss Sullivan, what a coincidence. We really are fated to meet like this." I shot her a cold glare and said, "I advise you not to provoke me again." Even with Ethan Yang's protection, you won't always walk away unscathed. She was startled by my demeanor and stumbled back several steps, colliding with a tree trunk that made her grimace in pain. I didn't want to pay her any mind and turned to see Ethan Yang approaching. No wonder she wore that wounded look. She was putting on her pitiful act again. As I passed by, I didn't even glance at Ethan Yang, yet he reached out and seized my wrist. Remembering how he had stood by and watched me being bullied without intervening, I felt disgusted and tried to wrench my hand free. "Don't touch me," I sneered. I didn't lay a finger on her. She backed into the tree herself. He opened his mouth, but ultimately didn't utter a word. I shook him off and returned to the trailer. Chapter 7. A peculiar sensation pricked at Ethan Yang's heart, unable to tolerate Megan Sullivan addressing him with such indifference. Clearly, she had stopped pestering him, and he should have felt happy about it. Yet, inexplicably, irritation prickled at him as he undid the top 2 buttons of his collar. When he woke up in the hospital, he saw Megan Sullivan keeping vigil at his bedside, the needle puncture on her hand still oozing blood. His impression of her stemmed from when their families had met, where both sides expressed no intention to pursue a relationship. Yet now she claimed they were getting married. He only remembered he was still dating Claire Sinclair. When she made such statements, he saw her as duplicitous, denying any marriage alliance intention to his face while secretly arranging it with their parents behind his back. She was a scheming woman. When she asked if he was okay, he coldly and impatiently told her to get lost. He called Claire Sinclair over the phone. Megan Sullivan stared at him in disbelief. "What do you mean? We're about to get married. Don't tell me you're still clinging to your past," he scoffed. "Our marriage is merely a business arrangement. I'll clarify this with my family. Leave the hospital room now. Claire will be upset if she sees you here." As she stormed off, the sight of her retreating figure filled him with a vague sense of displeasure. He attributed his displeasure to her unilateral agreement to the marriage. When he saw Claire, he realized they had just gotten back together. He had lost his memory. They had broken up because their families pushed for an arranged marriage, and his mother had threatened to take her own life to force their separation. Yet, he had never forgotten Claire Sinclair all these years. Upon learning she had returned, he told her he still intended to marry her and would cancel the arranged marriage. Now that he had lost his memory, he had forgotten all the hardships they had endured together. His parents would surely take Megan Sullivan's side and insist they were in love. He cherished Claire, who had endured all these hardships alone, while he only remembered they were in a relationship. Thus, in the days that followed, whenever he saw Megan Sullivan, he coldly and disdainfully drove her away. Every time he saw her disappointed and pained expression, he expected to feel satisfaction, yet none came. Those fleeting twinges of discomfort vanished before he could even register them. That woman was like a persistent burr. No matter how he drove her away, she'd still appear the next day, bearing his favorite soup. She always gazed at him expectantly, urging him to remember everything soon. He would knock down the soup she brought and drink Claire Sinclair's right in front of her. After that incident, she didn't show up for a long time, until they met again at an awards ceremony. He caught sight of her resplendent appearance, and his gaze was instinctively drawn to her. He found himself wanting to see her. But she was a wealthy young lady who threw her money around and bullied Claire, making him detest her all over again. Claire said they were worlds apart and urged him not to provoke the Sullivan family over her. But it was merely the Sullivan family. He needed to teach Megan Sullivan a lesson and make her come to him of her own accord. However, that night at the awards ceremony, she clung to another man in front of everyone and got into his car, driving off. It seemed the lesson hadn't been enough. He also directed that several roles be assigned to Claire Sinclair. That night at the bar, the way she looked at him was different from all previous times. Her gaze was resolute, as if it were the final time. He actually felt a surge of panic. After she left, he couldn't stay seated and stepped outside the private room to smoke. Seeing her being bullied, Claire Sinclair suggested she might be faking it for his benefit. He recalled her previous behavior, consistently assertive and never resorting to such tactics. With just a moment's hesitation, She was taken away. He thought that this time, she really wouldn't pester him anymore. He should have been elated, yet each day found him trapped in restless agitation. This time, upon hearing Claire Sinclair mention encountering Megan Sullivan, he came immediately. To his surprise, he felt a flicker of happiness. After all, she had been so devoted to him before. How could she possibly give up so easily? Just like the previous times, she'd be upset for a few days only to start pestering him again. She still couldn't let go of him. She must have come here for him. With that thought, his irritation melted away once more. Chapter 8. Soon, reality shattered Ethan Yang's delusions. He caught Victor Foster and me meeting on the set trailer. Victor Foster said he was in the area on business and came to check on me after finishing. "How's your foot?" "It's no longer a big deal." He squatted down and rolled up my pant leg. "Don't move. I want to see for myself." I could only stare at him blankly, and when his fingertips brushed my ankle, that scorching sensation surged back, this time with even greater intensity. He rested my slender ankle on his thigh, examining it with a reverent gaze, his fingers gentle as if handling a cherished treasure. I could clearly feel the powerful muscles of his thigh, and my heartbeat quickened under the intensity. I murmured, "Really, it's fine. It's been ages. It seems you've listened to me and treated it properly." Just as I was about to withdraw my foot, a voice cold enough to freeze hellfire sliced through the air. "What are you doing?" I knew that voice all too well. Flirtatious, coaxing, furious, icy, merciless. Every variation of it I'd heard before. It was Ethan Yang. He stood in the shadows, his face half in light and half in darkness, exuding a chilling aura like a vengeful spirit, his eyes blazing as they fixed on us. I glanced at our situation. In the cramped trailer space, Victor Foster gripped my foot with his left hand to keep me from slipping while his right arm secured my waist. Sitting face to face, our positions formed an undeniably intimate tableau. Victor Foster curled his lips into a casual smile. "Mr. Yang, what's between her and me is none of your concern." Ethan Yang strode up to us, and seeing that our clothes were intact, his furrowed brow relaxed slightly. "Get down." Just seeing him reminded me of that day in the private room when he sarcastically told me to seek out Victor Foster. Not only did I stay put, but I pressed myself even closer against Victor Foster, perching on his lap and feeling the solid planes of his chest. I tilted my head to look at Ethan Yang and said disdainfully, "Didn't you tell me to find Victor Foster? Now that I have, what exactly are you to me? You say, get down and I should obey? Do you really think you hold that much sway?" "No one to stop, Megan Sullivan. Don't regret it." Seeing the look on his face, as if I had done all this just to provoke him, I found it amusing. "What? Are you regretting it now? Isn't Claire your true love? Why are you standing here looking like you've chugged a whole bottle of vinegar? Who's this bitter act even for?" It seemed I had hit a nerve, and he snorted coldly. "Merely thought your daylight indecency was morally offensive. Not that it concerns you personally. With a heart as filthy as yours, no wonder you see everything through a dirty lens." He was stung by my repeated retorts, losing composure for the first time, and stormed off in humiliated anger. Victor Foster held my waist and placed me back in my seat. He looked down at me, his beautiful eyes reflecting a wounded look, his speaking tone markedly more distant than earlier. "So, he told you to come find me, and that's why you're here? You got close to me just to make him jealous?" Seeing him like this, I was taken aback. His current appearance completely contradicted the noble, aloof demeanor he had previously exhibited. He looked like a wounded puppy caught in the rain. Before I could respond, he stood up and said with a self-deprecating smile, "I won't disturb you then. Perhaps you two still have a chance. He clearly cares about you." Seeing him about to leave, I anxiously grabbed his hand and blurted out, No, it's not like that." He stopped and looked at me, his eyes filled with expectation. "Victor, I didn't seek you out because he told me to, nor did I get close to you just to provoke him. What we had ended completely that night. There's no possibility left between us." Finally, I traced my finger in his palm and said, With you, it's my own choice. You said you keep a collection of antique dolls at home. I want to see it tonight. His face remained cool, but his ears flushed red at the tips. He spoke with a deep chuckle resonating in his voice. I'll pick you up tonight. Chapter 9 afternoon shoot involved a water scene. I felt great, and we got it in one take. After changing clothes on shore, I prepared to shoot another scene. It was another wire work scene, and I still had some lingering fears from when the wires snapped last time. However, wire work is a regular part of filming, and if I want to stay in this industry, I must conquer this fear. I was back on the wire again, and during filming, I noticed Ethan Yong had unexpectedly shown up. He watched me suspended on the wire, his gaze gradually turning distant as he lifted a hand to press against his forehead. The final shot was me being struck down from above by the villain, my body arching backward with arms flung wide as if taking an invisible blow. Fortunately, the whole process went smoothly. After the shoot wrapped, Ethan Yong disappeared again. Once my scenes were completed, I went to remove my makeup. As I exited the set, Victor Foster's car was already waiting. Victor Foster's place was about an hour's drive from the set, and we spent the entire hour chatting casually. When we arrived, as he undid my seatbelt, I daringly pressed a kiss to his cheek. He immediately turned his face toward me and kissed my lips. The usually cool and restrained man seemed to be endlessly exploring this kiss. When we got out of the car, we were both breathing heavily. As I pushed open the villa door, he said to me, "Let's check on the cat first." I closed the door behind me and pinned him against it. "We can check later." We kissed our way from the door to the sofa. Just as he leaned in to kiss me again, a loud bang came from the door. Bang! "Victor Foster, open the damn door." Ethan Yong had arrived. We exchanged a look. Victor Foster restrained himself, impatience tinged with anxiety, and paused to ask me, "Should we go out to see him?" I tightened my grip around his waist, displeased, and huffed. "No." He smirked, his voice hoarse with mischief. "Then I'll work harder." The sounds of banging and crashing overlapped incessantly. Ethan Yong was outside, desperately howling, his voice filled with the despair of a cornered beast. With a choked voice, he pleaded, "Megan, come out. Please, I remember now. I remember everything." Chapter 10. He hurried to the bathroom and submerged his head in water to alleviate the pain. Images kept flooding his mind. He remembered everything. It turned out that he truly loved Megan Sullivan. For years ago, Claire Sinclair broke up with him due to the Yong family's crisis. He and Megan Sullivan had originally agreed to cancel their arranged marriage, but the Sullivan family stepped forward to help him despite past grievances. They lent him tens of millions and announced the marriage alliance between the two families to stabilize the stock market and help the company through the crisis. He developed feelings for Megan Sullivan, who, despite not having affection for him, was willing to sacrifice her reputation to help him. It was he who had taken the initiative to pursue Megan Sullivan. He inquired about her interests and took up racing specifically to engineer a chance encounter with her. Under the pretense of repaying a debt of gratitude to the Sullivan family, he began visiting her home, gradually growing closer over time. After a year of courtship, she finally agreed to give their relationship a try. During those 3 years, their relationship was filled with sweetness and affection. On the eve of their wedding, he learned Claire Sinclair was returning. When spotted at the airport by media, they claimed he'd come to welcome his ex-girlfriend and first love. In fact, it was just a coincidence. He was there to visit Megan Sullivan on set. After the fall that caused his amnesia, he remained convinced he was still romantically involved with Claire. After losing his memory, he had committed countless foolish acts. How could he humiliate Megan for someone like Claire Sinclair, who was so opportunistic? How could he snatch away the Best Actress award she had rightfully earned through her capabilities? How could he tell her to go find another man when she came to him for help? The worst of all was that when she was about to be violated, he had hesitated at the crucial moment when he could have saved her. Regret nearly tore him apart. Every part of him ached, body and soul. How could he have been so terribly wrong? He had to explain to Megan now. She would understand. After all, they had loved each other for 3 years. After some inquiries, he discovered she had entered Victor Foster's car. Upon learning of their intimate interaction, he couldn't sit still for another moment and immediately investigated Victor Foster's residential addresses. When he arrived, voices from inside reached his ears. So familiar. He was going insane. He kicked the door so violently that shockwaves of numbness and pain radiated through his entire leg. But no one responded to his desperate shouts echoing repeatedly. He called someone to tear the door down. He ended up fighting with the security guards in the villa area. After everything was settled, the door stood open. What met his eyes was Victor Foster, his face radiating satiation, and Megan Sullivan leaning weakly against the sofa, looking drained. She was covered with a thin blanket, red marks visible on her neck, the lingering allure in her eyes and brows not yet faded. He let out a howl as a sharp pain pierced through his heart, so intense it felt nearly unbearable. It was a fate worse than death. He threw a punch at Victor Foster's face. How fucking dare you touch her? Chapter 11. Victor Foster dodged the incoming punch and countered with a swift kick to the knee. Ethan Yang fell to the ground, but still defiant. He grabbed Victor Foster's leg and sent them both tumbling down. The security guard was standing nearby and immediately stepped in to pull them apart, but Ethan Yang broke free and made another violent lunge. I walked between them and looked at him coldly. Had enough. His hands fell weakly to his sides. I turned to Victor Foster and said, I want to talk to him alone. Victor Foster waved his hand, motioning for everyone else to disperse. I'll wait for you in the study on the second floor. If you need anything, just call me. I'll be right here. Ethan Yang looked at me, with hot tears streaming from his eyes. Megan, I remember now. Let's forget all this, okay? Let's get married as planned, okay? I let out a low laugh. How pathetic and ridiculous. I clung desperately to our relationship while he humiliated me over and over again. But when I made up my mind to let him go and resign myself to yielding him to Claire Sinclair, he remembered everything from the past and wanted to rekindle what we had. Is that even possible? I pointed at the marks on my neck and sneered. Do you think we can ever go back to how we were? He panted heavily, each word coming out labored. Megan, I don't care about that. We can go back to how we were. But I care. I don't want to be with you only to remember how you humiliated me for another woman, how you forced me to entertain another man for money, and how you stood by doing nothing while I was pinned down by those men. It makes me sick. Tears rolled down his face. I had never seen him weep like this. He, who had always carried himself with such lofty detachment. Even when the Yang family faced potential bankruptcy and Claire Sinclair broke up with him, he merely appeared somewhat despondent. It was I who forgot you, but because Claire Sinclair deceived me. She deceived you, and you believed her. Why didn't you investigate? Why didn't you trust your parents? Is there still a corner in your heart reserved for her? Even if you forget all this, how could you repeatedly humiliate a woman who adores you and shows you kindness? How could you watch her being violated without lifting a finger? Now I realize I never truly understood who you were. Since that night, everything between us has come to a complete end. From now on, you can be with whoever you want. He knelt before me, grabbing my hand. Megan, can't you give me another chance for saving your life that one time? I pulled my hand back. Unlike you, when I let someone into my heart, I've already cleared it completely of everyone else. What we had is irreparable. Consider your saving me that day as repayment for the Sullivan family's aid to your Yang family in the past. We're even now. I ignored him and closed the door. Chapter 12. As soon as I went upstairs, Victor Foster immediately pulled me into his arms. He leaned against my shoulder and whispered, Megan, I was terrified you might choose him. He regained his memory and saved you before. I couldn't help but chuckle. Even the shrewd and undefeated business tycoon had his foolish moments. In fact, I made my choice hours ago. Had I wanted to turn back, I would have gone to him the moment he came looking. There was still room to reconsider then, but I stayed because my decision was final. I needed him to lose all hope completely. His kiss came again, and I took a faltering step backward. He gripped my waist discontentedly. He was causing a commotion outside earlier. I couldn't fully enjoy myself worrying someone might actually burst in. As soon as the words left his lips, his kiss descended. How could you like me? Was it just physical attraction? He continued his movements without pause, slowly explaining. Actually, we had met back in college. At that time, he wasn't as remarkable as he is now, a withdrawn soul wearing black-framed glasses, constantly ridiculed as an oddity. Once, when I saw him being mocked again, I stepped in to put that person in his place and even said I wanted to be friends with him. After that, I really started eating with him in the cafeteria. But back then, as the campus beauty with numerous suitors, he even received warnings from others. Ethan Yang and I had loved each other for 3 years. On the eve of our wedding, when he came to visit me on set, the safety wire snapped during filming. He struck his head on the ground while rescuing me. Unfortunately, just a few days later, his family sent Victor Foster abroad for further studies. Later, he watched many of the films I starred in, witnessing my gradual climb step by step. He learned to change his style of dress while studying abroad, and upon becoming the head of the Foster family, he had considered reaching out to me after returning to the country, but I was already with Ethan Yang, and every time we were together, we acted so sweetly. He restrained himself from approaching. He specifically attended that awards ceremony just to see me. He knew that I had always wanted to win the Best Actress award and had wanted to see my wish come true. Unfortunately, he didn't know someone had tampered with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let me be disappointed. He said it was fortunate that he had come to the Golden Globe that day and approached me again. By the time I passed out from exhaustion, I could only recall him whispering in my ear, "Shall we keep the wedding arrangements then? Just change the groom." Okay.